I'm excited to introduce you to Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rodgers from the great state of Washington. She hails from the hardworking family in Spokane, and she represents Washington's 5th Congressional District, Eastern Washington State, since 2004. Why don't you guys come on up? I'll introduce you both. She is the chairman of the House Republican Conference. She is the 4th highest ranking Republican in the House and the highest ranking woman in Congress. And in 2010, she was appointed to the powerful House Energy and Commerce Committee. But mostly, she is an incredible example of finding a way, because she is the only member of Congress in history to give birth 3 times while in office. All right, let me see you do that, gentlemen. So I'm really happy that you're joining us. And of course, you saw the magical Christian Herald in the beginning. Christian is a 12-year-old native Washingtonian. She currently serves on her 7th grade student council. That means it's going to be a great panel. It's all good. She serves on her 7th grade student council at the Potomac School. She has been a Girl Scout since she was 5 years old, and she is currently a Cadet Scout. And for several years, Christian represented Girl Scouts of the nation's capital as a cookie media spokesperson, which is pretty much the best title ever. In June 2012, during the Girl Scout 100th anniversary Rock the Ball celebration, I was there. It was rad. She participated on the main stage by introducing none other than our fabulous First Lady, Michelle Obama. And in September, she was named a DC finalist in the Library of Congress, A Book That Shaped Me essay contest. But if that wasn't enough, she is a determined and passionate young leader. She's determined about making her friends and classmates make sure that they feel like they have the voice and confidence to lead. So please welcome our Congresswoman and Christian Herald. So I will start by throwing out the same question that I asked our other panel to start, the P word. What does having power mean to you, Congresswoman?
I'd like to think that if I have any power, it is to be an influencer. Mm-hmm. And my hope is to do whatever I can to improve people's lives, to give more opportunities. And kind of like what Susan was saying, as far as being in a position now in elected office, serving in Congress, and being a woman in this position, I do believe that it is important that I'm encouraging others to run. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't what I had expected when I got elected to Congress, but I believe very passionately in the importance of me reaching out, tapping other women on the shoulder, encouraging them to run, because I'm grateful for those who believed in me. I wouldn't be in Congress today except for some other people along the way that saw something in myself that I didn't see and encouraged me to run. And I feel a responsibility to do that for others.
What a fantastic use of power as well, power and influence. Christian, what does having power mean to you?
Well,
I think so. Tap it with your fingers on top. Yep, it's on.
Well, to me, having power as a leader means that you influence people and guide them, but you don't control them, because then controlling them becomes dictatorship. And I like to think of it this way. Leadership, it has the word lead in it, and you can only lead someone in a direction. You can't tell them, go over there or do this, because in the end, it really is their choice.
That's right. Excellent. Oh, we're in such good hands. All right. I just thank you, Mom and Dad. Thank you, school. Thank you, Girl Scouts. So
this isn't fair.
I know. So as a segue, I love this question. Christian, what did you want to be when you grew up?
When I get older, I'd like to be an editor, and this is because
An editor of what?
I haven't decided whether I want to do books or magazines. Magazines, I mean, I like the pictures and all the interesting stories. And books, they just take me to other worlds. So I haven't decided which one. But I know I would like to be an editor because I love reading, and I especially love writing. And I really do just have a passion for editing people's work. And I'm also an editor on our school newspaper, the Intermediate Insider, and I really enjoy helping people and commenting on their work, saying, hey, maybe you should think about this and consider this, or maybe you should add this. It's just really something that I enjoy.
Excellent. Congresswoman, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I remember I wanted to be a lot of different things. I wasn't sure. My family owned an orchard and fruit stand in a small town in eastern Washington, and we raised cherries and peaches and apricots, and very different than Washington, D.C. First in my family to graduate from college, and that was my parents' dream for me for as long as I could remember, because they wanted me to have an opportunity for a better life. And I was one of those kids who had 4-H animals, and when I sold the animals, it was my mom and dad were like, you save that money so you can go to college one day, because they wanted me to have that opportunity for a better life. I was a brownie, and one year I was Brownie of the Year, and I do believe that was my mom's proudest moment, to this day, probably. But I am so grateful for parents who helped me and believed in me. They sacrificed for me, and they had those dreams and helped me pursue more than probably I ever would have thought on my own. And as I said earlier, this isn't where I ever thought I would be, but I do think that women, I feel like we need to lean in, as Sheryl Sandberg said, and to really dream those big dreams, be risk takers, and be willing to put ourselves forward. And we do have something very important to offer.
Yes, we do. In the last conversation, we talked about enrolling people to help support when somebody wants to run for office. And in the confidence world, I call it building your esteem team. Finding the people. It doesn't have to be a large team of people, but it definitely has to be that person that you go to, that you either admire, can confide in, can really speak honestly with, right? I feel like that's an imperative for all people, not just women, but for all of us to have those go-tos. So who are your role models, and where specifically did you find them? How did they become a role model? Why were you attracted to them to be your role model? I'd love to get a little deeper into that, because I think that building of the esteem team is really important.
Sure.
Would you like to start?
I'll start. I do think models are really important. And I think for women, it was mentioned earlier, but I do think that we look at others and as we see women reaching new heights across the board, and we look at someone and we say, oh, you know what? She's doing it. She's cool. I can do it. And I think having those models are really important. As far as the support team, yes, as I shared, right out of college, I worked on a family friends campaign for the state house. That's how I got into politics, right? I graduated and he offered me a job, and then he believed in me. And I remember when he was pushing me to go do things that I wasn't sure, and he was the one who encouraged me to seek that appointment to be state legislator. And then also when I ran for Congress, it was the former member who reached out and I had been, he said, you have a great reputation. I think you'd do a great job, and it's something you should consider. And so I share those as examples, and it's very common when I talk to my colleagues in serving in the House, serving in the Senate, that it is other people that are still, for them, oftentimes tapping women on the shoulders and encouraging them around. I remember the first person that I actually said I was considering running for Congress, and it was kind of hard even for me to get it out. I was like, can you believe this? She's now my sister-in-law, lo and behold. But it was one of those where I went to her and she said, absolutely, Kathy, you should do this, and encouraged me to run, which meant a lot. And then also when I was first talking, some good advice I got, especially when I was considering running for Congress, was to make a list of 100 people, community leaders, business leaders, those in the Republican Party, and just go start talking to them, Kathy, and just lay it out to them. Let them know what you're thinking about doing. And the very first person I met with, and so this is Vern Ziegler, Ziggy's Lumber, there in Spokane, Washington. And I go in to introduce myself, and he says, Kathy, I know who you are. I've been watching you. So a little reminder that maybe people are paying attention when you don't even realize it. You've been doing a great job in Olympia. What can I do for you? And I laid it out, and he said, go for it. Wrote out a check for $1,000 and said, you let me know what else I can do. Now, not all the meetings went that well, right? But to your point, it was from those meetings that was the base of my support. Not everyone thought it was a great idea, but that formed the support group and the base of my campaign for Congress.
Excellent. Christian, who are your role models?
I have a lot of role models. I have to hold this so close. But I have a lot of role models. My mom and dad are the first big two. I mean, they've just done so much for me, and they've given me so many opportunities. Like, they're the reason why I'm here today.
Literally.
Yes. And so Girl Scouts sent out a sudden service call because She Should Run was looking for girls to do the Find My Way video.
Yeah.
My mom was like, hey, do you want to do this? And I was like, okay. So I did the interview with Miss Bresnahan, and I got the role. And I was just, now I'm here speaking on a panel. And
Kind of crazy, isn't it? Does it feel good, though?
if I had said no, I wouldn't be here right now.
That's right. So you said yes to something that was maybe a little unknown.
Yes.
And a little scary, maybe. But look at this. Look at all your new friends. And we can't wait till you're old enough to run so we can vote for you. Yeah, but you did. You took a big risk. So you had mom and dad as a role model. Anybody else you want to give a shout out to?
Yes. My role models also include any woman who has overcome the odds and become a leader. And an example of someone who has done that is the founder of Girl Scouts. Her name was Juliette Gordon Lowe. And the stereotype for women back then was, they didn't go to school, they didn't really have proper education, and they just stayed at home and helped the family. But she overcame the stereotype to start now one of the biggest nonprofit organizations in the United States. And so she overcame the odds and became a successful leader for girls like me.
That's right. Excellent. So I want to know more, Christian, what you've learned about being a leader in your student council position.
In student council, there are committees in student council, and so I'm on student government action, and they're more of the how can I call it, traditional student council that you would think of. Like, there's me and the secretary, then there's two chairs. We call them chairs, not presidents. But I'm on student government action, and our job is to take information from the students and help it get by our principal to see if we can change things in our school, like I mentioned in my speech. So, as secretary and as an introvert, and many of my fellow committee members are very extroverted, and so during our meetings they all charge forward and try to talk. And so I've just learned to step back and take a look of our plans or our ideas at different angles to see other options that we can consider or little kinks that they have. That way, when it's my chance to talk again, I can say, okay, we should consider this because maybe this is going to happen, and we can get a different perspective.
So you're thinking about things strategically.
Yes, and I've just learned to step back and not go out as much as I would maybe if I were in another leadership setting.
Sometimes we think that leaders need to be the loudest. And there's a lot of different ways to lead, I think. You're a great example of that in that story right there. And Congresswoman, I'm wondering what challenges you faced in your leadership role. We talked about earlier tonight wanting to go beyond the bio. When we hear everybody's bio, it always sounds so magnificent. But we want to talk a little bit about the messy, windy journey that sometimes it takes to get there. Do you mind sharing a challenge that you faced in and around your leadership in Congress?
Well, it doesn't always go as you had hoped or planned. There's disappointments along the way, and I think it's very important to learn from those disappointments. Certainly in politics, the lesson of persistence is so important. It takes a lot longer sometimes than you had hoped, and I'm continually reminded how important relationships are. And I mentioned reputations. You very quickly pick up on who you can trust and who, and then when somebody doesn't come through for you or let you down, you remember that too. And those can be tough lessons or disappointments along the way. But I think that you don't let that discourage you to the point of giving up. You got to just stay persistent. You got to stay with it and keep just learning how to be a more effective leader. That is, certainly with the new year around the corner, and we're already thinking about what we want to get done in the new year. I find myself just reviewing, yes, what happened in 2015, maybe where we didn't get done what we wanted, but then recommitting and trying to be even smarter and more strategic moving forward.
Last question for you both. It comes from one of our live streamers tonight. She's a 10-year-old girl.
Those can be the toughest questions.
It's going to be a good one. I promise. I'm going to leave you on a good note, but I think it's a great piece of, we wanted to get tangible advice tonight. And she says, I don't want to be a leader because I'm afraid that girls will make fun of me. So what should I do? So I thought we could just speak directly to her. There is a fear a little bit, like Chris, about kind of putting yourself out there. So whether you're a 10-year-old or whether you're another age thinking about and considering running, but you're scared, any quick piece of advice that you would offer?
I would just encourage her to believe in herself, to have confidence, to know that she has something to offer, and not to let other people be too critical. And also as women and as girls, I think sometimes we're our own worst critics. I think we're so hard on ourselves, and we're all human and we all make mistakes, but you know what? Each one of us has something very important to offer, and life is about relationships. And whether or not she may think that she wants to be a leader or not, you are an influencer. You are an influencer in your family, in your community, and I know that part of life and where I've gotten the greatest fulfillment is where I am a part of really making a difference and in helping other people pursue their dreams, reach their full potential. I mean, that's our hope and dream for everybody.
Christian, what would you say to her when she says she's not sure she wants to be a leader? She's afraid how other people might react to her.
I've been bullied before, and I've been teased, and I've been ridiculed, and I've been made fun at. And it's not fun. It's not cool. No. And it hurts inside. But like Hungerswoman said, we just have to push forward and believe in ourselves. And you know what? Why they're doing this to you? It's because they're afraid of you. They're afraid that you could step up and that you could take over and that you can make a difference at your school or whatever you're trying to, or whatever leadership position that you're trying to take. You shouldn't be afraid to be a leader. There's no specific type of leader that is perfect or good. Like Miss Wiener has said over and over again, it's a long, winding journey. My bio, it sounds magnificent, but I have gone like this.
Yes!
It has been.
Yes!
It is not all that great.
Yeah! And guess what? Doesn't that make it really fun?
No, it's not all that it's cracked up to be, but in the end, it is worth it. And if you do not step up, then the next person over will not step up. It takes one step for us to become a leader today.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you, Christian.